Hi, um, this is a video that's going to show you how to create virtual machines from virtual machines that I control. And you're going to use these virtual machines and the data disk that's associated with your account in many of the courses that you take with me. So the first thing you're going to have to do is create an Amazon Web Services account. I'm not going to go through how you do that, but if you type aws.amazon.com, that will get you started in creating an account. What you're going to have to do when you create that account is set up some billing information so that when you use Amazon Web Services, you're going to get billed for it. So my philosophy about that is you can treat the Amazon Web Services that we use in the courses that you take with me, kind of like a textbook that you have to buy for a course. You're going to be responsible for holding down the cost of using the web services. And the way you do that is when you're done working with a virtual machine, you just turn it off. And then you won't get billed anymore for it. If you want to use some cool fancy features that Amazon Web Services has, and there's a lot of really cool stuff there, it's fine. You can use it, experiment with it. Just check out how you get billed for it before you use any of that stuff extensively. Okay, so to give you an example, like they have databases you can set up, right? So some of the databases are really inexpensive, like MySQL. Other databases, like Oracle, are really easy to set up, but it's going to cost you about $5 a day to have that database up and running. So, all right, let's get going. So I'm signing on with one of my user IDs, Dr. Bob Dugan, and I'm doing a sign on here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my account information and I'm going to find out what my account number is. This account number right here. What you need to do is find out your AWS account number and email it to me. When you do that, I will add you to the list of AWS accounts that are allowed to access the virtual machine that we're using in the course that you're taking with me. So that's a very important step. You can't get access to the virtual machine image until you send me this user ID, or your account ID. So assuming you've sent me your account ID, I'm immediately going to set up access for you to a virtual machine image. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go to EC2, which is the virtual server. And I'm going to go down to images, and here is an image. It says CSC 324 Spring 2015. All right, for you, it might be a different image. For it's probably going to be an image of the virtual machine for the course that you're taking with me. So I have access to that image as a student. I'm pretending I'm a student here. And what I want to do is I want to launch that virtual machine and start interacting with it. Now there's two parts to doing this launch. So one is a one-time thing that you're going to do with me right now, and that's setting up a data disk to work with. And then the second thing you're going to do is launch the virtual machine and interact with it. Okay, so before we launch the virtual machine, we need a data disk. Now you might be asking, why? Why do we need a virtual data disk? Why can't I just work with the virtual machine? Well, the idea here is that you are going to have this data disk that you're going to use throughout the time that you're here at Stonehill. So as you move from course to course, or even within a course, if I update the virtual machine and say, hey, there's a new virtual machine I want you to work with, you'll be able to migrate very quickly to that virtual machine using the data disk. Okay, so how does this work? First, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to snapshots. And what I want you to do is, I'm going to delete this so we'll create a new snapshot. Okay, so we're going to create a snapshot. Okay, whoops, maybe we have to create a volume first, hang on. Okay, so we'll create a volume. All right, and the volume is going to be a disk that we're going to use. This is our data disk. So we're going to use this on every virtual machine that we log into. This data disk is going to be attached to the virtual machine. So you can sort of think of it like your home directory where you store things that are just things that you work with when you're working with the virtual machine. So for example, a program that you write for a homework assignment, or some HTML pages that you want to have served up if it's a web programming course. So I'm going to set the size to 10 gigabytes. You really shouldn't need much more than that. And then what I'm going to do is click Create. And now I have a volume that contains, that's 10 gigabytes that represents the disk that I'm going to be using when I attach the various virtual machines. Now I'm going to create a snapshot. The snapshot's going to be made from the volume I just created. Now the volume is a live disk that could be used to be attached to any virtual machine that you're working with. The snapshot is really important because in order for a virtual machine to start up, if you want to attach a disk to it, you have to attach a snapshot. So you take the volume, you take a picture of the volume, and then you use that picture for every virtual machine that you create. So here we go. Dr. Bob Dugan, data. And this is the data disk for that's just the data. We'll say data disk for virtual machines. Okay. So we're now creating a snapshot. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to we're now going to start this virtual machine. Okay, so we're going to say I went to AMIs. I'm going to say launch. I have to select the size of the virtual machine. I think what you should do is select general purpose large, and then we're going to configure the instance. We don't have to do anything. Whoops, we don't have to do anything here. So I'm going to click Add Storage, and here's where it gets interesting. So what we want to do here is change this to be the snapshot that we just created. So I want to say Dr. Bob, whoops, try that again. Dr. Bob. Okay. I'm going to select that. And if you want to see how I did that again, like we have to specify the ID of the disk volume snapshot that we want the virtual machine to use. So I'm saying I want to find the snapshot that has Dr. Bob Dugan. And that search got me to this snapshot. Okay. And then we're going to say we want to tag instance. Let's give the instance. We're going to say we'll say CS virtual machine. And then we have to configure a security group. Now, the best thing to do is select from an existing security group and select the default. If you select the default, you should see it saying all traffic, any protocol, any port range from any source. That's what we'd like your account to do. So we'll do that, review and launch. Saying you're going to get billed for this because it's not free. And then it's going to ask you for a key pair. So here what you want to do is select create new key pair and give it a key pair name. So I'm going to call it the Dr. Bob Dugan VM key pair. Okay, and then I click download key pair. Now The key pair is actually how you authenticate with the account that you're logging into. So you don't actually provide user ID and password. You use this key pair. So we're going to click download. There's the key pair. Awesome. Now we're going to launch the instance. There we go. Okay, so now if we go back here to EC2 and we look at instances, we can see there's an instance here. That's our CS virtual machine that's running. So let me explain what just happened. You took an image of a virtual machine that I set up for the course, and you made a copy of it, and you're running it locally within your Amazon web service environment. In addition to that, you have set up, but not completely configured, a data disk that will follow you for the entire time you're here at Stonehill. And that data disk is going to be the place where you save all your programs and work that you do while you're here at Stonehill. The nice thing about having that data disk is you can move that data disk from virtual machine to virtual machine to virtual machine. So in a course, as we grow and add new features to a virtual machine, you'll be able to swap out the old virtual machine for a new one that has more features in it and carry that data disk along with you fairly effortlessly. And then when you take a new course with me, you'll still be able to have all your old work on that data disk. So that's really great. Okay, so the virtual machine is running. And so what I'm going to do is attach the virtual machine. Now I have downloaded the virtual machine key pair file. This file is the thing that's going to allow me to attach to the virtual machine that's currently running without providing user ID and password. In fact, it's really the only way you can get onto the virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the name of it so that it's just PEM without the text. And now I have Dr. Bob Dugan VM keypair.pem. I'm just about ready to log in. Now I'm using OS 10 to do this login, so if you're using OS 10 or Linux, life is fairly easy for you. There's just a few more things I have to do the login. So one thing is I have to do a change mod A-R Dr. Bob VM keypair. So I'm removing all the read permissions from it, so I'm making the file a little more secretive. And then I'm going to say change mod u plus r Dr. Bob so that only the user that's currently logged in, bdugan, can access that key pair PEM file. All right. What else do I want to tell you about here? I think we're about ready to go. We just need to go over here and grab the IP address, and then we're going to type this command. So you're going to say ssh -i, the PEM file, and then you say ubuntu at and an IP address. So you're going to grab the IP address, from the AWS window. You might have to scroll around a little bit, but you see something that says public IP. I scrolled from the beginning of that virtual machine line all the way over here to see public IP. And whoops, where are we going here? And now that I've typed all that, and if I press enter, it says, hey, you're coming from a different host. Or I'm sorry, this host 52 blah 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 may be authentic, may not. We're going to trust it. Okay. Okay. Oops. I used the wrong key pair. So SSH Dune VM key pair. That's from an earlier attempt to get ready for this. Okay, so we'll try this again. So we're logging in with the Dr. Bob Dugan key pair. Looks good. And it says it's placing you, so welcome to the student Stonehill Computer Science VM. Remember to do all your work in the student folder. This will allow us to upgrade your VM in the future, placing you in student by default. Now at this point, you're on the virtual machine. You can do commands. For example, I can type ls. I don't really see anything when I do ls. Now, there's one other thing that you have to do, which is you need to format your data disk. You only have to do this once. Once you do this formatting, you can use the data disk on every virtual machine that you ever use while you're here at Stonehill. So how do you do that? Well, it's actually fairly simple. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to type, let's see, lsblk. So lsblk. And that gives you a list of the disks that are mounted on your virtual machine. All right, the volumes that are mounted on your virtual machine. The 8 gig volume right here is actually the configuration information about your virtual machine. It's everything but your data disk, basically. And the 10 gig is the data disk that's going to follow you around while you're here at Stonehill. So what we're going to do is we're going to format the disk. All right, so we're going to say sudo. That lets you become root on the machine briefly. Make file system. We're formatting it, and then we're going to say /dev/x vdf. That's your data disk. Okay, it's done. All right, you're all set. So now you have a data disk. Now what we're going to do is do an ls. Oh, that's not quite there yet, huh? Okay. And we're going to say, let's see if it's there now. Yep, it's there. Awesome. So you have the data disk, and cool. So you're good to go. You can start messing around with the virtual machine. I don't think there's anything else I need to tell you. Now, if you're using a Windows machine, the mechanism that you use to log into the virtual machine is slightly different, and I've got a video that shows you how to do that. But other than that, I think you should be all set. Send me an email if you have any questions. Thanks.